Alright, welcome. Okay, so this video is really not going to show too much. Edge retention, performance and cutting through what. It's just a mess, there's just so many aspects. But I did want to at least go over just the general question, I guess, to say, can you get a titanium edge or a titanium carbide edge to at least be sharp enough to be somewhat razor-like, meaning basically you should be able to shave hair and slice through phone book paper. That's all we're really answering here. If you can see here though, this is with the consideration that first, the titanium edged knife is this card knife and it's a zero grind. So it's basically just thin stock going straight down to the edge. On the Warren Thomas knives, it is a chisel grind, but I mean it's got the primary bevel is so, how do I say acute that it's almost as if it was a zero, because the secondary bevel is very, very minimal. So I mean really it's almost as if it's going down, but with that secondary bevel just there to help add a little strength to the edge. The toughness is the relation related to the steel itself, this being titanium, so 4 times tougher than steel, normal steel. And then here in terms of strength, here the actual edge, it's going to depend on the edge angle and also of course the steel. In this case, you have titanium on this side, which titanium can hone to a very fine razor-like edge, which I'll show you is like on this pretty much, which we can use to shave. And then it kind of reminds me of VG10, but with the 10 Rockwell S, it's basically like a very weak VG10, but very easy to touch up. But then on the back side you have that tungsten carbide, which is then basically like 10 Rockwell less than a diamond sharpener, which is 90, a diamond carbide, and tungsten carbide is 80, according to Mr. Thomas. And then so you can see here then that this edge, though, you can see these carbides are they're real coarse, and it's concerned too, because I'd asked Mr. Thomas, how do you sharpen this sort of recurve, that's like this? And he was saying a medium diamond rod would do the job and get a real nice toothy edge. So that makes 2 knife makers, Wiedemann and Mr. Thomas, that love toothy edges. But I mean, you could still say that a refined edge is going to have a more consistent edge right there, so that it's going to be more resistant to more micro chipping away of the edge material, because you got a long, consistent, continuous grain there. Because I mean, if there was gaps in between, of course, then the parts, the teeth that are sticking out can break off, and suddenly you lose your edge. So regardless, a nice polished edge would serve better in terms of like slicing them and edge retention. Now let's see though, for example, this titanium knife here. This is just a little Nemesis titanium card knife. It's got a couple little spots in it, but generally speaking, see? Nice. Try the other side with the chisel facing downward. A little bit better because you see how the chisel will, this way is a little bit easier because the chisel pushes, because that chisel grind, it pushes the material. Every time someone says something, it's like there for debate. And a lot of knife makers, pretty much now, all of them I've talked to, it comes down to personal preference what they say. They never say one is the best. I've never heard a single knife maker tell me one type of grind is the best. They say each grind has its purpose, its pros and cons. In that sense, a chisel grind, they're saying, how like they'd say this, that the edge, I had a good talk today with a couple knife makers, that the actual edge bevel, the actual secondary bevel, the actual angle of the edge, is it 40 degrees, 20 degrees inclusive, that is what determines the cutting performance and how polished and refined it is. Then the actual blade geometry, or the grind, for example, if it's a chisel grind, will determine how it separates, for example, the material you're cutting through. And edge retention, of course, will depend on what you're cutting and how hard you have to push to cut through it. So a good example, I was, of course, asking that convex debate, right? And they were saying, for example, one of the knife makers, he was telling me that, for example, steak knives. they're thin and flat ground for a reason, because let's say you cut into a piece of meat and it's frozen, right, or cold, and you're trying to, or with a bone, you're trying to cut through. It's hard to push that material apart, so you want it thin and to go in. But then, but you don't want to separate the material. But then you have like a convex, which, the convex are kind of more known for being able to separate the material. So a convex would push it away, and, for example, if you were to cut into a piece of something hard, it'd be hard to split it. Of course, unless perhaps, you wanted to do that, for example, with wood or something. So, they all have the pros and cons. He was even telling me that Mr. Weedman was telling me that they have knives that are like this, kitchen knives that are flat chisel on one side, and then a zero grind on the other. And when you cut, you cut the food, you cut this side, and here's the bulk of the food, and it pushes the other piece of food that way because of that grind, which is what you see it doing better when it's slicing this way with the chisel, you see, as opposed to, so you kind of, see how that's just tearing. It's because it's just pushing on the wrong side. You can see it, look. See? And here you go on the other side of the chisel. See? So, it's an aspect of chisels to consider. Now, this is the factory edge of Mr. Thomas's knives. And he likes them toothy, so it's no high grit here, and it's definitely very, you can hear it. Right, it catches. I mean, look at that. It's like it's trying to tear it with those saw teeth rather than slice it. You see. And if I go like this, but I can't just glide through. There's all those teeth, those spots that stop it. So here's mine a little bit more touched up. Let's see. Oh, there's an important part to mention. There is a reflective spot on the Gen 1s of this so far. This is the first run. You can see a little reflective. That area is what hits that stop pin, the backspacer on some of them. This one doesn't happen, but this one did. It doesn't really matter because as I've been sharpening, this is much less pronounced than it was originally. Eventually that will, as I keep sharpening, that won't be an issue. But it does catch kind of in that middle area. But you can see here, much more smooth. Car's catching up there. But you can see this. What I'm trying to get at is, sharpening a titanium carbide knife seems to be what your goal is to buff or polish up those rough carbides. Now, like I said, this test, I can make claims based off my experience testing with it already, but it's better that I just show it. So this test isn't showing edge retention. This is just showing the ability to get what kind of edges, what kind of edge can you acquire with at least this type of knife. See, so it does work. You can get that phone book slicing sharp edge. Of course, that is with that is with a chisel in a very, very shallow angle, primary bevel. He's telling me that Mr. Weedman was actually telling me the secondary bevels, usually when you add one, increase the angle by about 1/3. But it should still be a better slicer because it's only one side. It's going to be stronger because only one side is ground down. It's asymmetrical. But then the fact that, that one side, then usually a primary bevel on the chisel, he says, is roughly around 8 degrees. Add 1/3 into it, so it's kind of, it just depends. The, what's it called, he was telling me, someone asked me, one of my subs asked me, that's why I asked the knife makers about it, that do chisel grinds have, less, edge strength? He had heard this and he was kind of curious. And the thing is, if it's a zero chisel, then then it's like an 8-degree edge, very thin. And Mr. Weedman had some, and some people were asking me about getting those, and those are made to order, and he's not taking any orders right now. And those, he says, are a very small population of people want the zero chisels, because those are pretty much best for skinning and tactical use in terms of fighting against flesh, because it's razor-like and cut against flesh very easy. So you can see Mr. Thomas, with his theme of making lightweight tactical folders, has gone with that same idea too. The the zero chisels on their Emerson Specor ones, that's, I guess, like something that's preferred by people who like to have tactical knives because of how quickly it can skin things. Just like if you were to skin, an animal with it, the ability to push that skin up and have a very razor-like edge. But then, of course, you add a secondary bevel, and then it changes the story. It's no longer as, perhaps weak on the actual edge itself. And a nice thing about recurves, you can see now, this shows what a recurve does. Let's see if we can get past that spot. Okay, we'll keep hitting that one spot. Okay, let's see. You can see how it catches and holds it there, you see? And it does that when for example, if I were to cut at a branch of a tree, and it'll pull the branch with the blade and catch the branch here. And it would do that to flesh too, so it's a very tactical design. So that's with the phone book paper, right here. See, in comparison to this, and how I got it to be a little bit more refined so far, what I've come up with. See, hold on. This is the factory edge. See, it just doesn't ever glide. You can hear it, right? One more time. It is coarser up here. How I sharpened it is either these Lansky fine diamonds. I didn't go for mediums. I went for Lansky fine, Lansky fine ceramic. It broke off. I've noticed with the recurves, you have to have something like this with a little bit more narrow of a space that you can use to sharpen. Or this diamond sharpener by Smith's. These have like little spots that just kind of stick out. When they put the carbide on the diamond on it, it's like a mess, and sometimes you'll have like little bumps of diamond that just stick out and really jack up your knife. So I would say you have to kind of either use it a lot to break it in, kind of smooth it out, or sand it down or something. But this is very effective because you have the flat surface, you have a kind of slope here possibly if you want to try to convex. You have this for serrations. You have a lot of options here for hooks. What I just do is I kind of hold it like this, set down, and it kind of moves a little bit. In that flat portion, and I take the blade and I go over like this towards me, and that's because in my previous job, it was, I had graphic artists working for me, and they would tell me that these majors in graphics arts say that a human being, we have more coordination when we pull towards us than away from us. So for example, if you were to draw, you're able to draw a line better if you pull towards you. So I just put it down like this, and I would look at my, do my little technique, and then pull it towards me. And I'm not, since the titanium itself isn't hard to hone or sharpen, what I'm really here just trying to do is just smooth out those carbides. So just light pressure, trying to just soften up those teeth, so they don't like snag so easily through the paper. And this edge definitely does feel more razor-like. And then I did the same thing with the ceramic, same process. Let set down, found the edge angle, kind of like that. And then when all said and done, I go and then I remove, I guess, that burr that's on the back side. We're just going like this, very light pressure, almost like completely upright. So regardless, retention of edge retention, I don't know. But in terms of at least honing the edge to a decent paper slicing level is possible and doable. Let's see. Okay, factory. So you kind of have to saw. And then a pure card knife made of titanium. Let's see, a pure titanium knife. If I can find it, guys. Right here. See, very smooth. Okay, so this is a quick, just to show the edges. This is this blade shape, this recurve. It's also seen on like knives like the Strider EBDB. carbides. So here's the factory bevel. Or Mr. Thomas's initial bevel. Here's mine. That little missing section I was telling you about. So I didn't do the front. You can tell the contrast. See? And then here's the card knife. Backside, a couple passes over it. And you can see here's the carbide looks so rough. Let's see. And here we got this one. You see how it's got a softer look to the edge. A little chip. See, unpolished. I didn't touch the front area. See that little reflective edge. Okay. That's it, guys.